In the last two videos we took a closer look at the common run-of-the-mill adventurer, but now that we've climbed to the top, we can gaze upon the highest potential rank any human may ever hold, Adamantite. This term encompasses the select few who stand right before or are even able to set foot into the legendary realm of heroes. This is also the reason the Adamantite rank is open-ended, because almost nobody has the faintest of clues what could come after this mythical realm of might. Therefore, the disparity between the power of teams and even team members is quite considerable, because almost nobody has the faintest of clues what could come after this mythical realm of might. Some groups stand at the lower end of the spectrum, having more in common with orichalcum plates than true and proper Adamantite ranked adventurers, like Silverthread Bird, who only obtained their plates due to flawless teamwork, the occupation of fairly rare professions, and the slaying of one epic beast, rather than through individual strength. And on the upper end of the spectrum, we've got Evil Eye, or even better, Momon. A hero that even on his very own is still powerful enough to fight against the Demon Emperor himself. And just to hammer home how ultra rare this rank truly is, consider the following. The kingdom with its 9 million citizens has only 2 Adamantite ranked adventurers in its entire territory, and Lucius, the leader of Blue Roses, decided to become an adventurer after hearing of the heroic stories of Luisenberg Alberion and his team, Red Drop. So for at least a while there was only one Adamantite team for 9 million people, and therefore Adamantite ranked adventurers might be actually as rare as 1 in a million. And being this special means that they are well and truly gifted. Lucius, for example, the leader of Blue Roses, is able to cast 5th tier resurrection spells and wield Killenarium, the accursed Black Blade, at the age of 19. Remember Lockmire, who was just 1 rank below her? He supposedly retired in his 30s and was 40 years old at the time of his death, without ever wielding this much power. And his vaguely defined but nonetheless superhuman level of strength and skill is one of the 2 things every Adamantite ranked adventurer has in common. The second would be their status. If you watched my last video, you certainly know all these rules and regulations normal adventurers have to follow. Well, Adamantite are the elite of the elite. They are truly special. They are essentially one-man armies. They are essentially main characters. And therefore they can get away with some clear violations of guild guidelines. So if, for example, Blue Roses would make a transgression, perhaps by invading the domain of a noble in order to slay or capture any members of the 8 Fingers that for some mysterious reason just happened to be there, the noble in question would be screwed. Granted, he could simply deny any knowledge of this agricultural project, but he couldn't do anything to Blue Roses either, no matter if the law states that only he, and he alone, may hand out punishment and hire enforcers at his own domain, no matter if he has to pay collateral to the 8 Fingers, and is now worse off than before, no matter how many times he rattles into the next guild building in order to whine and bitch, no matter if he screams so often and loudly that he eventually will give birth to his very lungs, and no matter how often he tortures some poor receptionist with his foul breath while filing the 100th complaint about Blue Roses in this week alone, it will ultimately vanish into some sort of drawer or serve as a convenient way to start a nice fire. After all, who's gonna take down a powerful noble protected by Princess Renna that also is a badass warrior priestess armed with a legendary black blade that literally kills on impact, guarded by even more flying swords, accompanied by a powerful caster, twin assassins, and best girl herself, Gargaran. But even just on their very own, any Adamantite adventurer is strong indeed, so the guild will usually ignore or downplay minor and mid-tier transgressions. For example, while holding court at Irantel, Ramposa III would allow a minor noble to try and recruit Momon and Nabe for the upcoming battle. Yes, we're talking about Splat. Needless to say that Nabe was not amused, and while the nobles somehow survived with only minor injuries, Nabe might as well just killed him on the spot, without too much in the way of repercussions. Not only the guild would look in another direction, even the king himself would rather deny any connections to the nobles' action than risking a conflict with Adamantite class adventurers while preparing for the war against the empire. Think of it that way. They basically would have to deploy Gazev Stronov, the strongest man in the kingdom, if a conflict between the crown and Adamantite plate adventurers would occur, and the risk of Gazev dying is quite considerable, even if he and his elite units were up against a normal Adamantite ranked adventurer team. And remember, without Gazev Stronov, the kingdom will most certainly fall in the next war against the empire, since it may now deploy Fluda Paradane without the risk of Gazev killing him in melee. And having a caster of the 6th tier casting magic is devastating. Not Splat level of devastating, but still more than enough to break through the ranks of a mostly untrained peasant army. Being in an Adamantite group is also a great way to get away with feeling the poor. While the temples will most certainly send assassins after you, you and your group will actually be able to fight back, which is just what Silverthread Bird did, and in case of Blue Roses, they even managed to recruit Tina and Tia. But not only the adventurers themselves are beyond powerful. So let's dive into their gear for a bit. While the normal citizen is oftentimes best off wielding spears for close quarter combat, simply because they are easy to use, have great range, and because they are fairly easy to obtain and maintain, and employ oftentimes makeshift bows at range, because by using them they can deal damage before a wolf, an ogre or brigands are able to harm you and your village, this fair lady here wields a magic warhammer that's heavier than a fully armed and armored knight. And she does so effortlessly. And remember when I said that Adamantite plates are the equivalent to a small army? Well, actually, they are quite a lot better. They need far less food, they can deploy way faster, and they can make use of something called defeat in detail. Simply speaking, they might engage an isolated part of any army and use their full strength to massacre, let's say, 2,000 men before retreating, and the man in question can't do a thing against it. So as long as they can achieve local superiority, and as long as they are able to dictate time and length of any engagement, given enough time, they could defeat armies and conquer nations on their very own. And Evil Eye at some point in the past did precisely that. So what I truly wanted to say for about 4 videos is that despite the huge gap in strength, and despite the high fantasy setting of Overlord, the well fleshed out guild system greatly contributes to the immersion into this story. The guild ranks serve as an anchor point for, and a way to, describe different power levels. The rules and regulations allow insight into the mindset of adventurers, and into the agendas of various powerful institutions, and the status of legendary heroes has an actual impact on politics on a national scale, even before Momon earned his plate. Over and out.